Saturday Morning Nerd Show. I am Mark Splake, your host. Joining with me is the brewing sailor, Mr. Brendan Smith.
Good morning, everybody.
And Mr. Chad Womack from the Electric Jellyfish Podcast.
Morning, folks.
All right. First of all, we want to start off by saying, dear Skynet, fuck you. We're still rolling with this. We're going to do it. You're not bringing us down. Anyway. We're sorry for being off last week. Had some technical issues here in the studio, but we are back this week despite everything, and we are going to be talking about the Bad Batch, Star Wars, how it all fits into the overall Star Wars universe, and besides all the Star Wars TV shows that have been announced, what else that we want to see. So it's a Star Wars podcast. Now, yes, Brendan is already dressed for the part. I am wearing the Captain America t-shirt because, well, it was not only was it the first t-shirt on the pile of laundry that I haven't folded yet, but it's also in honor of the fact that it was just announced that Anthony Mackie will be Captain America in a fourth Captain America film. And
I am Jack's complete lack of surprise.
I know. And we knew it was coming. The success of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But again, it's great to have that announcement and know that we're going to see him again, even though we only had a limited series on Disney Plus. But for anybody that was wondering what was going on, well, it has officially been announced. So I'm personally very excited about that. Anyway, so we got lots to talk about today. And we're going to jump right into it. If you are also very excited that season 3 of Titans is on HBO Max, you can stop watching episodes right now, listen to us. We are very excited about this.
Fourth episode actually dropped Thursday.
Yeah, so it has turned out to be one of the best superhero series that's out there that's not on Disney Plus. And as I was kind of chatting with Allison, our senior writer, who's in Atlanta, I'd rather watch more of these series than go back to watching anything on the CW. I mean, the CW is kind of we're exhausted with the CW.
The CW has jumped the King Shark.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just. I mean, we had 5 really great years of Arrow, first couple of years of Flash and, the first bringing everybody together. But I feel like you're the big event to end everything was Crisis on, Infinite Earths. And after that, we should have just been like, hey, we did it. We're done. Go watch HBO Max. So, all right. And a couple of things that are out there on streaming services that you can watch. If you're a Jason Momoa fan, which we are, because we've all met him, and he's super cool, watch Sweet Girl on Netflix, where they basically try to take down, big pharmaceutical companies that charge high prices and make money off people dying of cancer. And all I want to say is, for the ladies out there, there definitely needs to be more movies with Jason Momoa haunting you, encouraging you, and killing people.
So, a quick story about Jason Momoa. Apparently, Dave Bautista wants to do a buddy cop movie with Jason Momoa. And somebody said, you know what? If we throw in John Cena, we could do a remake of Three Men and a Baby. And I was just like, well, that'd be a horrible parental choice because the child would never see him.
But at the same time,
but if you put in Ryan Reynolds in that group, Ryan Reynolds is kind of like the Ted Danson.
All I want to say is, if you're going to remake that movie, then yes, please give me these people. I'm not saying it won't be a train wreck, but it's a train wreck I will definitely
Well, it'd be great if you could bring back the original 3 actors as the granddads.
It's not like they're doing a whole lot these days. Well, I don't know what Steve Guttenberg is. I mean, Ted Danson and Tom Selleck both have
TV shows, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, oh wow, God, that movie's almost 35 years old to think about, and it's on Disney Plus. I noticed that the other day. I was like, really? Wow.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's 34 years old.
Yeah, well, almost 35. I
God
mean,
almighty.
and
Damn, we're old.
nerds, here's your pop quiz of the day. What Star Trek alum directed that movie? We're not going to tell you.
I
You'll
thought that was going to come up.
Yeah, I was right.
Yeah. All right. We're going to get to this week's Side of the Apocalypse. Brendan's going to do one, but I'm going to touch on this real quick. So, Call of Duty. Oops, sorry about that. Getting a little tilted. But before I get off and start ragging on Call of Duty, I want to thank Chad for letting us know that Quake, or was it you? Or anyway, we found out that Quake, a remastered version of the 1996 game, is free on Game Pass. And it's kind of what they did with the first Doom games, you know, beefing up the 64-bit, but you still kind of get to play in that format. So 1996, Marcus was having a blast last night playing Quake, which I have not played in over 20 years. So, and
It does support online play. That's the beauty of it.
Yes, you can do a 4-person co-op on it, which we're kind of excited to try. It was a little quirky. I mean, it's definitely has the sensitivity of the Xbox. I kept falling in off bridges and into the water a lot, but it was a lot of fun. So if you're a huge fan of Quake, you have an Xbox and Game Pass, go check it out. And they also included like 3 other little pieces of DLC with it as well. So awesome. I kind of find that interesting that it dropped because Bethesda games are having like a huge sale this week.
Yeah, it's QuakeCon. It's QuakeCon weekend.
Yeah, and that was the other thing I was going to mention as well.
So they actually having that out at the Irving Convention Center?
I'm not exactly sure, to be honest with you. We apologize. That kind of fell through the cracks with us. We're putting together another magazine issue, finishing up the second half of summer, things that we have reviewed and all that. But also, speaking of video games, if there's one movie that I can truly recommend, yes, you need to go see Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds. It's absolutely worth it. It's hilarious. It took almost a year and a half to finally get released again, after the pandemic, but worth the wait. And I'm going to say something that's very controversial, at least to one of our staff members. So I'm saying this to Miss Julie Jones. Jodie Comer is just as hot as Charlize Theron.
That's a bold
Okay,
statement.
no. Okay, here's the thing. I was very impressed with her acting, and I think she's an incredibly pretty young woman. And I think that she's like the ultimate girl next door. But Charlize Theron's just on another level. Like, she's got 20 years of cachet behind that. Like,
I will say this. I will not disagree. However, if we're looking at, like a young up and coming actress that can get into the stratosphere of Charlize Theron, then I think Jodie Comer is definitely getting there. I love Killing Eve. I mean, you're right. She seems like the girl next door, and if she really games, she's even hotter. But I would also say the same thing about Karen Gillan after watching Gunpowder Milkshake, which was another really fun movie on Netflix. And by the way,
still want Karen Gillan to be Mara Jade Skywalker.
Oh, no. We are absolutely pushing for that. The same way that we're pushing for Christian Kane, which we interviewed 7 years ago, to actually be able to do a Gambit TV series, because we think he'd be the perfect Gambit. So, But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. I did a quick review on it, and it was, I definitely gave it an 8 because it was a lot of fun, and we'll certainly watch it again. Also, we need more movies with with big muscle dumb Ryan Reynolds running around looking at pretty lights.
Catchphrase.
To the Great American Hero theme song, by the way.
I will say that. I think if Free Guy had a weak link, and I know this is sacrilege right now because he's in everything and directing everything, Taika Waititi was so over the top. And I know it's kind of him, but it was just like his performance grated on me after a while.
I'm sorry. I tuned you out when I knew you were going to start complaining about him.
Well, fine, tune me out, but it's just like it was just, I don't know, like he got annoying after a while.
He got annoying towards the end, but I still love the dude. Can't wait for season 3 of What We Do in the Shadows.
Yes.
I understand. That's why I said I understand this is going to be sacrilege. Like, I understand the guy's hot and he's in everything and he's directing everything and people love his stuff. And like, to be honest, I've enjoyed a lot of his work. I'm not going to be that poo-poo, but I just, towards the end, it was just like, oh, dude, more of you. Okay. But to me, that was the only weak link of the movie. I thought everybody else was really good, and I really enjoyed it because even though I didn't get to go see it with you, I did take the time to go check it out. And,
well, here's other one. Here's another great thing about that movie. Channing Tatum was not annoying in the movie.
He was actually hilarious. I really have to give him props for allowing himself to make fun of himself and being the avatar for a pimply, 20-year-old kid that lives at home with his mom.
I do want to say this about Channing Tatum. We've complained about you over the years, and I don't think it has anything to do with that you are a terrible actor. That's not it at all. It's you are poorly cast in certain movies that you don't need to be in. That's not, like, I get the Magic Mike type movies and all that, but I think it's great when you can kind of make fun of yourself, poke fun at why people like you, that kind of thing. And that I respect. But sometimes you're just wrong for a movie. I mean, can you imagine, would Star Wars have been as good if Al Pacino was in it? Al Pacino is not right for Star Wars, and he was one of the leading contenders.
I kind of see him as Tarkin, though.
Well, yeah. Sure. But anyway. All right. Real quick, speaking of video games, yes, Madden 22 came out this week. If you saw my review, it's another year of football, and it's the same old Madden.
I was gonna say it's Madden 21 with a new fucking cover.
Pretty much what it is. I mean, they made
like they said in Tron, they put a 22 on the box. Yay!
They made some improvements in franchise mode, in the scouting. I will give them that. They're making it a little bit more challenging when it comes to gameplay, especially for the new consoles. I can't easily do a lot of the things that I normally do to win games, but you pretty much just did a couple of things that you could have done through updates on Madden 21. And then you charge people full price. I don't understand, for the people that love to be the GM, so I kind of understand that experience when, you actually get to have a full coaching staff. You can move coaches around. You can fire your head coach, promote a new one. And then somebody was talking about, yeah, but it's cool. Now you get to like do a press conference in the franchise mode. And I'm only thinking, do a press conference in a football game. At what point am I not going to be mimicking the actors from the FX TV show The League and just talking shit? Because who takes that serious?
Yeah, look, I think when Madden came out with the list of what they were doing this year to try and win back fans and whatnot, I don't know if you guys are, I'm sure you are, but Angry Joe did a video on it, and shout out to him. And it was hilarious. He was going down the list and they were like, this is a feature that we haven't had since NCAA 14. It was 7 years ago in a college game on a different 2 generations ago. And he's like, and you've been so lazy that you haven't put it into any of your games since. And now you want to get a pat on the back. He's like, ooh.
The only thing that,
Good for him.
Matt, that they're ever going to do regarding, I mean, it was cool when you added the point where you could actually play some college football, in the face of the franchise mode.
Yeah.
That was 2 years ago. The only thing you've changed is you don't have to be the quarterback anymore. There's 3 other positions. You can be a running back, receiver, or a linebacker. Great. That's kind of fun. But you're only getting to play 2 college games. Okay.
Yeah.
The
Where's
only
NCAA? Like the suit's been settled. Where's NCAA football?
Next year.
All right. Well, we'll see how they do with that.
That is the one game that football fans have been clamoring for years. Okay. And it will be the biggest seller that you have, which
honestly, let's be honest. Nothing's going to change in Madden. Nothing is going to change in Madden until 2 things happen. One, a viable second contender comes on, because 2K is supposed to be getting back into it. We'll see how they do. But a viable second contender comes on, or everybody just collectively says, no, we're not buying Madden this year because you keep shoving the same shit down our throat.
Well, we'll be talking more of that in a featured article in our magazine over the next few weeks, talking about the future of sports games and what needs to happen. But the only thing I will say is I can't give a great grade to Madden, even though I love playing the game. I love playing a new season. And, we're going to be doing a Madden tournament with the Ultimate Game League next week. But I just can't bring myself to say that this is great compared to last year's version. And last year's version wasn't really any improvement over 20. It's everything you're doing can be done through updates.
And
so
20 still had 19's graphics in it.
Oh,
like literally, it said Madden 19 and 20 in certain stadiums.
Yep.
I ended up getting the MVP edition of this game. And I would never pay that kind of money. I would never spend $100 on a Madden game because I don't do all the other modes and stuff like that. I play the season over and over and do it on different levels. And, sometimes I create myself as a quarterback versus using, the Bears quarterback. I was very excited this year because the Bears have
maybe next year you won't do that because you'll have Justin Fields, who, hopefully will be a year better and an actual good quarterback.
Brandon, you think I didn't change my depth chart before I started playing? No.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think you were gonna start what's his face, the red rifle there.
Starting Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton, yeah.
But the only reason I ended up with the MVP edition is a lot of the extra discs that we've had for review copies over the years. I finally traded them into GameStop and ended up with all of this credit like I normally do. And I'm like, sure, I'll get the game a few days early. Because as a media outlet, this is also for you, EA. When we email you multiple times and we leave multiple messages, especially with someone who has a magazine whose audience is going out to about 7 million people, you should probably want to get back to us because the next article we write is going to tear you fuckers apart. But we can be easily bribed or at least tone it down with a few free copies of your shitty,
Hey man, I've heard what they pay IGN for their reviews. I want more than free copies.
Well, I'm just saying. All right.
You better hook the rest of the staff up with some PS5 or Xbox Ones. That's what I'm saying. Give me a bundle and then we'll start talking. I drive a hard bargain, man. What can I tell you?
Real quick. Call of Duty trailer dropped this week for Call of Duty Vanguard. I swear to God, it looks exactly like they ripped off footage from the Battlefield games, telling these individual stories. It may look cool, but when I first saw it, I was like, oh, there's a new Battlefield game coming out. So that's my little gamers this week sign of the apocalypse. I'm like, I don't think you've really done anything. I think you're just ripping off some other franchises and calling it something new that you've done. I'm not saying that we're not going to review it, but Activision, you can give us a free copy before we just. So your grade starts at a 3. And with the free copies that you send us, we can quickly go up a little bit. We're just saying. But yeah, I looked at him like, I'm confused. Again, is this a Battlefield game? And for you gamers out there, look at the footage side by side. Tell me if I'm wrong. So that's my little
Well, you can never judge a game by cinematic, and that's all they showed. So, where do you go from there? They showed no gameplay. It was all just cutscenes.
And I'm honestly not that excited to play it. I will probably just go back and play Call of Duty 2 on the 360 like I did last year. Call of Duty World War II, which came out a few years ago, was pretty good. And you can never go wrong with going through the remastered edition of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, which was free on PlayStation.
Yep.
Pretty cheap. And I think they're supposed to be doing a remastered version of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, which was pretty decent as well. So anyway, it is what it is. All right, Brendan, our big this week's Side of the Apocalypse has to do with James Bond, and tell us why.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know how movies work, you hear a lot of money get thrown around these big box office receipts, right? Well, how much do they actually make? Well, if you say that the cost of a movie is $200 million to produce, well, then you've got to actually figure in the fact that they probably spent about the same amount marketing that movie. So now it's really a $400 million movie, which means if they want to make money off of it, because the theater takes half of the ticket sales, they now have to make $800 million. So because James Bond cost so much to make, this was one of the most expensive Bonds ever made. And because they've had to keep pushing the date back, two things have happened. The interest payments on their loans to make the movie have gone up, okay, because they haven't recouped any money yet. So the interest on the actual production budget is gone up. So the production budget itself has gone up. It's ballooned up to, I think, $235 million at last filing. But they've also had to market it 3 times because it keeps getting pushed back. So their marketing budget has tripled. So under current estimates, it's believed that Bond will have to make at least $900 million for them to turn a profit. And in this current situation that we find ourselves in, with the Delta variant, making recovery at the theaters almost impossible in some places like New York and California, making $900 million is damn near impossible, especially for a franchise that has had one movie crack the $1 billion plateau, and that was Skyfall. And that was by far the best of the Daniel Craigs and probably top 5 Bond of all time. I think everybody would agree with that.
It's my number 3.
Yep.
Okay, so there you go. So I'm not exactly sure where I would put it. I'd have to really think about it. We've probably done that show in the past, and I'd have to go find my notes, but it would definitely be in my top 5. And it's the only one ever to crack $1 billion. So you've got this insurmountable task. So Bond is literally a financial flop before it ever released. And that's insane. That is the world we find ourselves in, that a Bond movie is a financial flop before it will ever release.
However, there is a way to save it. Besides the many times that we should all go see it because it's a Bond film.
Just letting Chad know it's iced tea, Chad. It's iced tea. It's not whiskey. Sorry, you were saying, Marcus.
Look here, John Belushi crying that they took the bar.
They took the bar, the whole fucking bar. Anyway,
bar.
Okay, you were saying about Bond. I apologize for interrupting.
Well, I think the only way that you're going to save it is you're going to literally have to put it on Amazon Prime to get more subscriptions, or actually rent it out for people to watch it.
Yeah, you're going to have to do like a Disney Plus $30 thing. And I don't even know that could do it because, let's like Suicide Squad and Black Widow had very similar opening weekends at the theater. So let's just take that kind of, and we don't know what Black Widow did on Disney Plus, but we know Suicide Squad had something like 3 million or 3.5 million views that first weekend. Okay, you're still only in about the $100 million range.
Well, here's the sad part about all of this. It already starting out as a financial flop and what it's going to have to do to break even. we're still not even guaranteed that it's going to release in October at this point. I swear to God, from week to week. And I was talking about this with the people over at Fonz PR that handle a lot of the Amazon stuff. We were doing a press tour for a movie called Everybody's Talking About Jamie, which I had to go to downtown Dallas and interview the cast, and it was great. But we're like, so they bought MGM. There's a holdup on that. Amazon bought MGM's. It hasn't even fully gone through yet. Nobody knows exactly for sure if movies are going to get any kind of a theatrical release or it's going to have to go to on-demand. Things are just going to on-demand because you don't know what's going on. And literally, we're waiting week to week to even find out if we're going to get to see any movies. Now, the next Marvel movie, which is coming out, here in a week and a half, it's not even going to Disney Plus as a premium movie. It's supposed to be straight to theater and then, wait.
And that was an interesting little discussion online, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Between Bob Chapek and Simu Liu.
Yeah. And it's it's like, I can't even get into, that's a whole nother podcast unto itself. But at the same time, it's like, I hope that we get to see the next James Bond movie here in about 7 weeks. I hope in 2 months we're going to get to see Top Gun 2 after all this time. But
I'm actually looking forward to Top Gun 2 more at this point, to be honest with you.
No, and I can't wait to see it. It's like we can't even plan any kind of events that we want to do because it's like, are we even going to be able to do any film festivals? It's still all up in the air, and it's just. But anyway, one thing is for sure: no matter what's going on there, we can still do our podcast at home and talk about movies and TV shows. All right,
absolutely.
Let's grab another quick cup of coffee. Chad, real quick. I think you're the only one watching What If, so talk about What If and if it's any good. What if anybody should watch it?
Well, I actually watched the first episode, so I can talk to you about that, but I haven't gotten around to the second episode yet.
Wow. I know that that there are going to be fans of the comic series itself that are going to be a little bit perturbed because they're not pulling directly from the source material. I know that's always kind of a point of contention for a lot of people because you're dealing strictly with characters from the MCU. Like, I don't think that there was an issue of What If that dealt with Peggy being being Captain Carter.
Right.
And it really shouldn't matter.
Well, it's what if, these are what if stories, and we're doing it for the MCU.
Yeah, exactly.
So it should tie into the MCU. It shouldn't necessarily come straight from the comics.
Precisely. We talked about it on Spoilers of the Multiverse with the Electric podcast last week, and we all came to the mass consensus that we absolutely love this thing. I don't think there was an opposing voice at all. My only criticism of it was that it was too short. I could have watched an hour and a half of Captain Carter and little skinny Steve Rogers.
I think what I really liked about it is about that first episode is so often in writing lately in cinema, the easy way to make a woman strong is to make all the men look weak. And it comes off as very forced and very transparent, and it's annoying because you don't have to have weak men to have a strong woman. And What If did a very good job of avoiding that trap, because even though Steve didn't get the super serum, they focused on the quality of the person Steve was, which is why he was supposed to get the super serum in the first place.
Right.
And then she gets the Tesseract, spoilers here, and Howard Stark creates an early version of the Iron Man suit, and who do they get to pilot it but Steve? So now there is a partnership, an equal partnership between these two, where they fight Hydra together. And you couldn't, they couldn't finish the story. They couldn't achieve the mission with one without the other. And, and the partnership transcended just the mission. but there was also this deep, genuine connection between these two characters, and it didn't matter that one became strong and one wasn't, or that one had a big mechanical suit and one didn't. All that mattered was that they actually cared for each other. And I thought it was a very well written, very touching story. And I think they did a really nice job with the first episode. I haven't had a chance to watch the T'Challa episode yet, which I do want to watch. Meant to get to that this morning, got distracted, but.
Well, I freely admit that it's one of those things that I haven't gotten to yet out of everything else that, we have to kind of keep up with and watch. And, we are trying to, give equal time to movies that are coming out on Netflix, whether they're really as good as some of the stuff that is coming out in theaters or not. Netflix, it's a major player, and they are releasing a lot of, interesting movies, or at least fun movies. So we try to give them reviews.
I will say this, Marcus, for What If, and I know you haven't gotten to it, but I will say this, and I think Chad will probably agree with me here. Out of the 4 Disney Plus Marvel shows that we've had so far, WandaVision, Captain and Winter Soldier, Loki, and What If, I think What If had the strongest premiere episode.
Well, and
granted, it's an anthology series, but it's not, it's not a narrative series like the others, but I think it was very good.
Here's the thing about that, Nerd Show. This is why we have a staff.
Yeah.
There's so much out there. Not 1 or 2 people can actually cover everything. And, when.
Oh, I'm just saying you're going to enjoy it when you get around to it.
Well, it'll be a while, for me. And there was a series that dropped this week, which I'll be doing a review on the original title is called Shadowland, but it's called The Defeated on Netflix. They bought up or partnered up with this. It's technically a limited series, even though they're doing 2 seasons, splitting it up over 16 episodes. But it's about post-war Berlin, and Taylor Kitsch from Friday Night Lights plays a Brooklyn cop who, as part of the State Department, is coming to help and assist in setting up police departments while Berlin is being redistricted between Britain, Russia, America, before the wall would go up. But they're trying to deal with petty crimes, but also trying to solve major crimes. Nazis are still trying to get out. And his whole story is he's also trying to find his brother who went AWOL, who was one of the first soldiers into the Birkenau camp. If I'm pronouncing that correctly, that sounds like I am. But anyway, it was very interesting, and I had to finish that up this week. Now, I will say this, and this one's for Brendan. If you get around to watching it, you will have to ignore the, Canadian/Texan trying to do his over-the-top Brooklyn accent, like he channeled Kevin Costner from 13 Days.
Yeah.
But don't let that take away from how wonderful of a cast it is and how great the story was. And I can't wait for the second half of what they're trying to do. Anyway, moving right along to the topic of the day that we're going to spend the next 45 minutes on. So, yes, Star Wars The Bad Batch. We had another great Star Wars series dealing with the end of the Republic, the Empire, and what, connection to all these characters that we have come to love. I want to start out by saying, despite all the controversy with the Disney trilogy and stuff, I really feel like, and I think this is a credit to Dave Filoni, that the most interesting stories in the Star Wars universe are not necessarily even the original trilogy. It really is the beginning and, the end of the Republic, the rise of the Empire, and all of these other characters that had a hand in leading to the rebellion. That wasn't a Skywalker, or between the Bad Batch, and even the Clone Wars, when we finally got to see Anakin in his prime before he went to the dark side. But between Bad Batch, Rebels, last season of the Clone Wars, there's just been, I feel like this is the best storytelling right now in Star Wars. Besides The Mandalorian, which is showing us, more of what's happened on the outskirts of the galaxy after Return of the Jedi. And I honestly just feel like I could care less if they do any more movies or whatever. Tell more stories about this bigger universe and all of these people that have come to make up the Star Wars galaxy that will eventually lead to the rebellion. That's my first take on it. And I loved the Bad Batch, or as I like to call it, the A team of the Star Wars universe. But there were some episodes that, like Chad pointed out, were kind of a grind and, seemed like they were filler episodes. But I binge watched everything over the course of a week and really loved it, up until the end and can't wait for more. So, Brendan, I know this has been you're a fan favorite. You were really excited about this. What is your whole take on the Bad Batch?
Sadly, let me preface this by saying I think it's a good show, but sadly I was a little let down by it. I think it had very good moments throughout, but I just thought the pacing of the episodes was off. Like 13 episodes in, you've got a filler episode that doesn't move the plot in a 16 episode season. Like I hate using, I don't hate using the term filler episode. I hate the connotation that filler episode has,
Sure.
because a filler episode can be useful. If well written, it can, develop characters, give you insights into, motivations between the characters. But that episode should have aired in like episode 5 or 6. That episode should not be 13. Like for the last 5 episodes of the season, I want bang, 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 bang story that continues and builds till you get this crescendo. And for me, Dave Filoni has never shied away from killing a character. And I really thought somebody important was going to die in that last episode. I mean, they set it up to where somebody was going to. Spoiler alert: the Imperial Navy destroys every city. And by the way, they do verify that it wasn't just Tapoca City. They destroy every city on Camino.
They wiped it out.
Yeah. So they only show the destruction of Tapoca City, but they wiped out every city on Camino. I think the penultimate episode was the best episode leading up to that. And you get the little montage of going through all the different spots with the clones and whatnot. And, it was kind of a nice send off to the Clone Wars era. And that's really what it was. That scene was a nail in the heart of the Clone Wars era to say, the Republic, this is the final death knell of the Republic, and we are now the Empire. So I think season 2 is going to have a very, very different feel to it. There's also rumors that there's going to be a time jump, but so you might see a completely new character model for Omega, where she's a mid-teen or young woman. But there's been rumors all along they would connect it to Obi-Wan. And so if they have a time jump, it might be right before Obi-Wan. So who knows? But or the Kenobi show. I guess it's called Kenobi, not Obi-Wan. But I just did that last episode. So the 13th episode for me was a real letdown. And then that last episode for me was just like the whole episode was the escape. And then like it felt like there was no consequences.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you feel like, because I think before they announced that we were going to get a season 2, I think we all knew that we were. I think they were setting this up to be the next kind of Clone Wars type show where we're going to get 4 or 5 seasons, if not more. Do you feel like that they're saving some of the bigger stuff that they want to explore for future seasons and just kind of giving us a taste with this first season?
If they are, and that's their motivation, I feel like they got very lucky because the numbers have not been that great, and there was a lot of concern that it would not get a season 2. There was a lot of talk out there that will they, won't they?
Right.
Because I forget the name of the service that they're kind of like Nielsen for streaming services. The numbers were not that good for Disney Plus on the Bad Batch, and let's face it, the numbers on any of the cartoons aren't that good because the majority of people who watch Star Wars are over 30 years old, and people who are over 30 years old generally don't watch cartoons. I mean, there are a big, yes, I know there's a ton of anime fans and whatnot. I understand that. But there's 100, that's a very small subsection of society, and there's 100 million subscribers on Disney Plus. You're only getting 500,000 views per episode. That means 0.5% of your subscriber base are watching that show. So I think they took a gamble if they did that, and then I'm very much looking forward to season 2, and I'm glad they got a season 2 greenlit. But I think it was a gamble.
Yeah, I honestly feel like this is just another thing that Disney is adding, okay, and trying to and basically giving Filoni free reign to tell bigger stories. I don't think it's going to be as good as the Clone Wars was. I don't, obviously won't be as good as Rebels, but I think it's kind of that in between that connects us to these worlds. I think that's the point that people don't realize is there is so much stuff that happened in this 20-year period between Fall of the Republic.
Just think of everything that's happened since 9/11.
Right. Okay. So much.
Very
people
true.
grew up.
Good point.
You literally have to. You're telling some of these origin stories that are connecting to characters that we have loved. Like I love the episodes where they introduce Hera from Rebels. I thought it was great. And
that actually,
definitely.
And honestly, to me, I think that's probably one of the most popular episodes for across the entire series. And the reason why is because Clone Wars fans really appreciated it because you A, had Charm Syndulla in it, who's Hera's father, and B, it was a 2-episode arc, which was much more like how the Clone Wars was done with multi-episode arcs. And fans of Rebels liked it a lot because it had Hera in it. So it had this broad-based appeal that reached out to multiple generations of fans.
But at the same time, you're also getting to see the beginnings of Fennec Shand as she is in the guild and, rising up. I'm just saying you have all of these characters that are connected to one another in a much bigger universe besides the Skywalker story.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, again, I know this wasn't ever going to be as good as Rebels and some of the stuff that they're doing. It's more like, here's some filler stuff to watch while you get ready for the shows that we're finishing up filming and about to be released in 2022. Okay. But we also want to continue some of those stories from the Clone Wars and what happened to these people in between. Okay. Or, what they tried to do in the novel series of, when The Force Awakens came out, here's the Aftermath trilogy. Here's what really kind of happened when the Rebels won and the Emperor died and Vader was gone and yada, yada, yada. And setting up the beginnings of what would become the rise of the First Order. Although, as entertaining as that is, we are seeing a much larger world through the Mandalorian series, and that's a better way of telling that aftermath, that's going to connect to the Disney trilogy. That's all I'm saying. It's like, I look at it as kind of filler. I like it for what it is. I think it's very good, but I am personally counting on the fact that they gave us a taste. They know what they want to do, and season 2 will be better. And there's going to be, look at every Star Wars series. The first year is not as good as we start to get to 2 or 3. As they start to.
I agree. I'm hoping that I really normally I don't like the idea of time jumps. I'm not a fan of them, but in this case I am, because I think in this case what it's going to do is, like I said, that attack on Kamino, that was the end of the Republic era. That was the final death knell. And I think if you jump forward a couple of years, now you're going to see the Empire in its full might. Okay, right. You're gonna see the new Star Destroyers coming out, not just the old Venerator class from the Clone Wars era. You're going to see the TIE fighters, the TIE interceptors. You're gonna see how we might see early Thrawn.
Yeah.
You might see a young Thrawn. We certainly have books telling those stories. So there's a lot of things that could happen. And plus, it does bring it closer to the other stories that they're telling in those timelines, whether it be Kenobi or Andor.
Yeah.
And you get to see probably a much more capable Omega, because she'll be, 15, 16 years old.
Right.
So,
Chad, I know you complained a lot that it was kind of a slow burn throughout the series, but what did you think overall of the Bad Batch?
Well, the problem that I really have with it as a whole was that you just came off the final season of Clone Wars, which is what introduced us to the Bad Batch in the first place. And the final 3 episodes of that last season of Clone Wars was every bit as good as anything Star Wars we had grown up on. I dare anybody to debate me on that. That final shot of the end of the season of Clone Wars chills me to my core every time I watch it.
Sure.
And Filoni has kind of established himself as a guy that doesn't do anything without a good reason. And I know that it's kind of hard to defend that position when you get to episodes like Infestation, and when you bring those 2 annoying ass sisters back that were in that last season of Clone Wars that just bogged things down. And I'm like, we don't need any fat in this season. We could trim it all out. We could probably have cut 3-4 episodes out of this thing, and it would have sung. It would have sailed along.
Right.
So, yeah, it's overall, I'm kind of with Brendan where I don't like a cliffhanger ending when you're establishing a new IP, so to speak, if you want to call the Bad Batch a new IP, even though it's kind of dovetailing off of the Clone Wars. So that was the only major complaint that I had, is like, you have this buildup and it doesn't feel like we landed anywhere. It doesn't really feel like they stuck the landing on it. Like Brendan said, I agree with him. But the penultimate episode was better than the finale.
Right.
And seeing oh God, I'm actually drawing a blank on Freddie Prinze Jr.'s character's name.
Kanan Jarrus.
No. Yeah,
Caleb
fact that
Dune.
we see him. Yeah, Caleb. Yeah, the fact that we see him at the very beginning of this series, and then we don't really see him again.
Right.
And I felt like you kind of gave us that little carrot, and then you just kind of stuck the carrot in your pocket, and there wasn't any revisiting that. Yes, I love the fact that we got Hera and Chopper, and the fact that they tied all that in. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, well, I know everything's going to build and lead to somewhere, but
So I wasn't surprised that we didn't see Caleb Dune again, because, AKA Kanan Jarrus, because he's in hiding.
Yeah,
he goes into strict hiding, and he's not going to meet Hera for a couple of years later. So I'm right now, I think he's like hiding on the streets of a planet somewhere, and he ends up getting taken in by a smuggler. And that doesn't even happen for another. So I'm not shocked at all that we didn't see him again. I wasn't expecting to see him at all.
I'm not shocked. I was just kind of disappointed.
That's one of the things I loved about the Jedi Fallen Order game, is you kind of got a glimpse into how were Jedi's hiding, the ones that survived. What did they do? And you find the protagonist from that game, who's basically working in like a shipyard. He's trying to hide the fact that he was once a Jedi, and then he has to show off his force powers by saving a friend.
Oh, and by the way, they were on that planet, and the shipyard he was working on, that's Braca. They went to that planet twice in Bad Batch. It's just,
I thought so. I thought that's where it was.
Yeah,
right.
It's just Cal Kestis isn't there yet.
Right. But that's something that I would like to see. I'm not saying you have to do an entire series or whatever. But it was also kind of like my idea if Kenobi did like a Seven Samurai type story where you went to go find other Jedis to do a mission or whatever, and you got to understand, you got to see how they were living, how they were hiding, and he gave them purpose again. But I think there's a lot more Jedi out there that we, don't know about. And I also feel like that's kind of what Luke was doing after Return of the Jedi, on top of finding artifacts, is also seeking out other Jedi. Would they help him rebuild? What would they, that kind of thing. So like I said, I mean, I think the Bad Batch is what it is. To me, it reminds me very much of the first season of the Clone Wars, where it's a little uneven. There's some good things, but you see the building blocks there, and even the first season of Rebels.
Well, yeah, and by the way, there's a pattern forming here though, too.
Yeah.
Father figure Anakin, child Ahsoka, father figure Kanan, child Ezra, father figure Hunter, child Omega. This is what Filoni does. So
Yeah.
you know, I fully expect Omega to be A, more capable, B, less annoying, and
Thank God. Less
'cause,
impetuous, please.
Well, not only that, but a little less trusting, a little more worldly.
Yeah.
And also, you know, I love the voice actress that plays her. And by the way, she is an absolutely stunningly gorgeous Asian woman from New Zealand.
Yes.
But could she lay off the Omega? She really,
Hey,
I can't even do a Kiwi accent, but she really lays into that.
you know, if you started with the Clone Wars movie and then did the series, the biggest tragedy was how annoying they made Ahsoka right off the very beginning, that you just didn't like her character. But you loved her as she grew, you know, from a Padawan, and you knew she had skill, and she really comes into her own by the time you see her in Rebels. And it's almost like, do we have to do that again with Omega? I mean, she's cute and all that, but can we skip the annoying part?
Well,
But I guess
no, because
that's
part of the hero's journey. That's, I mean, come
I
on.
know,
How about Luke?
What I'm saying, well, let me finish.
But I was going to go to Tashi Station.
Let me finish. What I'm saying is, that's also part of Filoni's motif, is we have to start them out kind of annoying, young and naive, and yada, 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 for you to truly appreciate them when they become the hero. That's what Filoni did for us with the Clone Wars. Is you hated Anakin in episode 2? We all did. But I'm going to show you why he was a hero, why he gets to the point that he does before he falls. Because Lucas apparently can't write this character as well as I can when I have more time to see the growth.
Well, that, and I'll be interested to see if Omega pops up in the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah,
because she's essentially Boba Fett's sister.
Yeah, and see, this is what I love. Okay, for everybody that complains about the Star Wars trilogy, and I was actually having I got to give props to my 10-year-old nephew Asher, who was over here a little bit this summer, a couple of days, a few weeks ago. He finally he's been binge watching everything on Disney Plus. And then he'll go back and rewatch it, at my house. But we were talking about Rebels. I started him on Rebels when it first started, when he was, about 5'6", a little too young to kind of appreciate it. But now he's gone through it. I mean, we talked it all, and talked all the way through it, and he loved it. He understands the catharsis, and the growth of Ahsoka, and realizing, that Vader is Anakin and all that. And he's gone through The Mandalorian twice. And I'm like, I finally get to, and this is one of those things as a storyteller that I get to talk to my 10-year-old nephew about. It's like, this is why this is better than not having a clear concept for the Star Wars trilogy, because you take the time to tell these overall stories step by step. And this is why Favreau and Filoni should just run everything, and we shouldn't listen to anybody else.
Which, by the way, with some very small breaks, you're going to have completely uninterrupted Star Wars from December of this year through probably May of 2023. Because what's going to happen is you're going to have, I think Book of Boba Fett, I believe, is 8 episodes or 6. So that's going to take us into January. In February, you're probably going to have Kenobi drop, and that I know is 6 episodes. So that's going to take us through March.
I think they're talking March actually when it's dropping, but again, you're about right in there.
Then after that, you're probably going to have Clone War or Bad Batch season 2, which would then run from April, May, June, July. Then in August, you'd have Andor, which is that one we know is 12 episodes. So that's going to run August, September, October. You'd probably have November off, And then Mandalorian season 3 drops December. That's 8 episodes, December, January. Next year, Ahsoka season 1 is filming in early 2022, which means in February, March, you'd see Ahsoka.
By the way, if you're wondering why Ahsoka is not filming right now, Rosario Dawson is a little busy doing Clerks 3. So
well, it's also
Kevin-
it's also because they had other things in that they had to do first, and they
I
didn't
know.
have all the volumes built. They only had one volume. Now they've got
well,
two
I'm
volumes in
just
LA.
saying that as
Yeah.
we keep getting updates from Kevin Smith, I love the little picture at his house of the table read, and you know what they're trying to do with that film. It's it's him basically completing over 30, almost 30 years, his opus and his trilogy, and looking back at everything. But I thought the picture he dropped, looking at Clerks 2 with everybody, and then Clerks 3, how they've, he's like, everybody's aged except Rosario Dawson.
Yeah, no kidding.
True.
Yeah.
So,
But,
kind of do that, and then they can go in and do Ahsoka. But yeah, there's so much stuff over the next few years that it's going to be awesome. All right. I'm going to bring up this point. And agree with me, disagree with me. But with what they are doing and telling stories, between episode 3 and episode 4, obviously you're not going to get a sequel to Rogue One, but you can get a prequel with Andor and whatnot. But, we still love the Solo movie. It was a lot of fun. I don't care about seeing any more movies with Solo, but I would honestly love to see, a 6 or 8 episode series.
you basically
3
are.
seasons.
The Lando series is still in development.
No, I understand that.
True.
But what I'm getting at is while they are kind of centering on Lando, which I think is great, absolutely, okay, I honestly think that you should have kind of 2 things at the same time where, they're always, connecting with one another, whatever. I think Alden Ehrenreich did a good enough Solo. Obviously, the new actor, and I always forget his name, who's doing Chewbacca, gives him more work. Don't give me a movie. Give me just episodes. Tell about different, smuggling episodes or things and how Han. Give me little things about his story that's going to connect us to when he meets Luke and Obi-Wan. Okay? Because you basically have this 10-year gap that you can tell his stories and his adventures with Lando, things that you can make canon between the Solo movie to this, now that he has the Falcon. I just feel like that would be better for Disney Plus than doing a movie.
Well, yeah, but I think the reason why they're doing Lando first is because there is such a divisiveness amongst the fandom around that Solo movie. And so I think what they can do is that they do Lando and then they bring Alden Ehrenreich into it, and it's better received than the movie was, then they can then launch a Solo show off of the Lando show.
And that may be the smart thing to do. All I'm saying is I want to see that series. You don't need to do, you gave him his origin story, you gave him the movie, that's great. And here's another thing that you get to do with it. I want to see more Kira. I liked Emilia Clarke. I want to see her story evolve too with Crimson Dawn, and see more, Darth Maul.
I was gonna say Emilia Clarke's fine and all, but I want Ray Park as Darth Maul with Sam Witwer as his voice.
Yes. Yes.
Again,
Yes. Yes.
And if you're gonna do crime stories, this is what I really want. Okay. We need, as a fandom, we need to, give Ahmed Best an apology. So what I would like to do is have Ahmed Best be the body, kind of like Ray Park is the body for Darth Maul. Have Ahmed Best be the body for Hondo Ohnaka, and let Jim Cummings voice Hondo Ohnaka, because I want the Jedi's best frenemy in live action. Hondo is one of my favorite characters from the Clone Wars and Rebels. The scene where Ezra, he says, "Well, what about my payment?" And Ezra says, "Oh, there was never going to be any payment." He goes, "Oh, you have double crossed Hondo. I'm so proud of you, my boy." He's like, he goes, I want Hondo Ohnaka in live action. I do. I really do.
No.
And,
Yeah, I completely agree.
and so if we're gonna do stories about smugglers and crimes and Book of Boba Fett, like I need Lando, Solo, Boba Fett. I need Hondo Ohnaka. And granted, he'll be old and aging and retiring, but it'd still be a lot of fun.
Even if you just wanted one property and just call it like a smuggler series and keep bringing these characters and how they all connect, I'm okay with that too. I'm just saying, tell these stories. You have so much. Okay. If you really look at the Clone Wars series, it's 3 years between episode 2 and episode 3.
And they set 7 seasons there.
There was so many stories that they told. It felt like it was longer than 3 years. Not necessarily season. It just felt like there was so much going on in this 3-year period. And I understand it's war, but if you can tell all these grand stories, it feels like a longer time period, a big, bigger universe within a timeline that's short. Imagine what you can do with 20 years between episode 3 and episode 4. I just feel like this is a world where you can, keep telling these stories. Somebody brought up an interesting comparison online. I don't remember the name, so I apologize for that. But it was, if you watch Game of Thrones, there's so much stuff that they talk about the past, about Robert Rebellion, okay? And, what led to the rebellion, to the 17-year period between that happening and then where Game of Thrones ends up. You have revolution, you have the Greyjoys who rose up and started their own little rebellion. You have all of this stuff that you can tell that they kind of did in flashback to get you caught up to where we are in Game of Thrones. Okay. And that would be cool to see. But I feel like if you take with that idea, there's so much more in the Star Wars universe where you can have tons of just individual series on Disney Plus that get you there, that make you understand about how the world really works and really how these 20 years really shaped the universe. And then you can carry that over into, well, how about 30 years from Return of the Jedi to The Force Awakens? Because I think the biggest crime about the Star Wars sequel trilogy is we just don't know enough that led us to what happened. And we get snippets. And we're beginning to see that with The Mandalorian. Okay, the Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka. There's just, you have to tell these stories to make sense out of, oh, okay, that's why all this happened and blah, 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 and do it more beyond flashbacks. That's what I would really want to see. And that takes you into 10, 15 years worth of Star Wars series on Disney Plus. So am I wrong to want all of that?
No.
Not at all.
So it's not like Disney Plus is going away. Even if they raise the price, they keep giving us more and more to soak up to, with all these stories in a bigger universe.
I just hope they eventually give the fans what they want and go back and do the Old Republic. And I'm not talking about the High Republic. I'm talking about the Old Republic. I want to see the Sith Wars, the Mandalorian Wars. Like, hell, even if they don't go all the way back to the Mandalorian Wars in the time of Revan and Malik, although I think it'd be a huge mistake not to explore that. Just give me, the Great Sith War where Darth Bane eliminates all the other Sith and creates the rule of 2.
Right.
which we already know has been recanonized in Disney canon by season 6 of the Clone Wars, because
Right.
Yoda goes to, and then for whatever reason they changed the name from Korriban to Moraban, which I was like, all right, whatever. But like, you changed a letter. Yoda goes there, meets Darth Bane's spirit, which was actually voiced by Mark Hamill, which was kind of cool. And so we know they announce him as the creator of the Rule of Two, which kind of canonized the whole trilogy by Drew Karpyshyn. Now, of course, they could throw that out and change it, but I really wish they would actually leave the basis of that story together, to where there was a huge Jedi and Sith war, and there were Jedi generals and Sith generals, and they were fighting. And Bane has this epiphany that we'll never defeat the Jedi, because the Jedi are a unified front, and the Sith are always constantly trying to kill each other vie for power. So I'm just going to get rid of all the Sith altogether, and we're going to work to take over the galaxy from the shadows. And that plan comes to fruition 1,000 years later in the form of Sidious. So that, to me, that's a really interesting story, and I'd love to see it happen. So if we're talking about just wish lists of what we want to see on Disney Plus, please give me the Old Republic, please.
Oh no, I don't disagree. In creating a fantasy world, and I've talked with you and all of our friends about how to tell stories, especially when you're talking about role playing campaigns and stuff. I have to be linear in my storytelling. Like, I need to know what that beginning is. Okay, what sets this off that's going to lead us into the other ages? And Lord of the Rings is great, but you're basically dealing with the third age, and there's all this stuff before I want to know about. Same with Game of Thrones. I don't understand when people we create these worlds like, let's start somewhere in the middle or towards the end, and then we'll talk about all this great stuff, in flashbacks and whatnot about what happened that led us to this point to tell this story. It's like, well, no, because those stories sound so much more interesting. Why can't we start there? I mean, Fellowship of the Ring is a better movie than The Two Towers. In some ways, The Return of the King, because it sets up who these characters are, they'll separate, and how they all come back together. But there's just so much.
Fellowship of the Ring is still my favorite of the three, by far.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love them all, but Fellowship is by far the best movie.
I threw the Hobbit movies up in the background not too long ago as I was working on fantasy stuff, and I kind of realized that the Smog is the middle movie. I mean, it's cool, but it's a kind of anticlimactic towards the Battle of the Five Armies and then the adventure where they start out on, and then Bilbo keeps proving himself here and there, kind of thing.
And let's face it, the best scene in all of The Hobbit, and the one they pulled straight from the book, is the dining scene at Bilbo's house.
Yeah, I agree. But so it looks like we're going to get a ton of stuff from Star Wars. But I think probably on all of our big wish lists, more than we talked about, like as Brendan brought up, we have to go to the Old Republic. There's just too much there.
And they've already teased it twice. Like I said, they teased it with Darth Bane, and then they've also teased it in The Mandalorian by going to Tython. When you play Star Wars: The Old Republic, the MMO, and you start off as a Jedi Knight or Jedi Counselor, the first planet you start on is Tython. That's the ancient homeworld of the Jedi. So, like, you've already teased it twice. Give it to me, damn it.
Well, I envision, there's a nerd assisted living place with a bar, and we're all there in our golden years, finally getting around to watching, the upteenth story of the Old Republic. Finally, they gave it to us in our old age, and it still won't even scratch the surface of all the great stories that you can tell.
Yeah.
So take us to the beginning, okay? Episode 1 should not have been the beginning. No, I get why you had to tell it, but I think the more and more that they do with Star Wars, the more that we realize that, Anakin is just not as much of an interesting character as I think George Lucas made him out to be. And Luke, great, but I can even say the same thing for him. I think there's so many more interesting characters that led there. But I also need more from Luke. I need to see more than just 4 minutes at the end of season 2. So give us, you've already pretty much said you're giving us a Luke Skywalker series, and Mara Jade is going to be made canon. So let's get to it. So, all right. Excuse me, everybody. Coffee's going down the wrong way. We'll keep talking more about Star Wars. We can't wait to talk about the book of Boba Fett. I'm really, really glad that Ming-Na Wen, seems to have a lot to do in the Star Wars universe. So it's great to have her character pop up for a couple of episodes. And
the only person with the Disney triple play.
Pretty much.
She's a Disney princess. She's a Marvel superhero, or a Marvel character anyway. And she's in Star Wars.
Yep. So she's still gorgeous too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so again, there's a lot to look forward to, and we're gonna keep talking about it. We'll talk more about What If as that series, as we get done with that series. But of course, there's plenty more to talk about in the nerd universe. So, real quick, we do want to mention, again, if you're watching this podcast, we are still doing our gaming events at Crafting Growler every other Tuesday. We are stopping just to do a Madden tournament, because we kind of do promote the game and we do play Madden. But I do also want to thank Madden and EA that I don't have to actually buy copies for the tournament, that you're giving me 10 free hours to be able to host a tournament. So good job there. Because I wasn't shelling out $180 for your, new game just to host a tournament. But Brendan, you still got the 10 beers on tap. Do you have anything new coming over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I got 2 new beers coming up. Well, we're waiting for some of the sours to drop off the board before we drop our new sour. And then we've got a golden milk stout, which is going on tap this weekend. Actually, it might be on tap now. I've got to check the tap list.
We'll be able to have that on Wednesday when we do our Madden tournament.
Yeah, that's going to be well, she didn't put it on last night. Damn it! All right, I gotta check text her. But I've been stuck at home for the last 3 days because I got exposed to somebody with COVID. So as a matter of fact, as soon as we click, I'm running to go get my test. So because my test is scheduled at 12:30. So hopefully I get a rapid test.
We got to get you out of here. We got to wrap this up. Chad and I have more Quake to play this weekend.
Yes, we do.
All right. We'll be back next week with more things to talk about in the nerd universe. But if you haven't finished out the Bad Batch, go ahead and do it. And there's plenty more things to watch out on streaming services, including Titans Season 3. So, all right.
Well, and guys, and let's not forget, we got Visions coming up. We have Star Wars Visions coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, all I wanted to, they dropped that trailer, and I thought to myself, man, if they made a video game out of that, I would play the shit out of it.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, everybody, we're out of here. It's time to say goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.